So I like this music to get me in the mood to fight. And by the end of this presentation, I want you to be in a mood to fight too. Of course, I don't literally know Kung Fu. I'm not going to attempt a flying roundhouse kick here on the stage. But Wikipedia tells me that Kung Fu actually means skill acquired through hard work or merit. So maybe I do know a little Kung Fu. I know Kung Fu is also a line from the movie The Matrix. Now stay with me here. This was a movie made 18 years ago that told the story of people fighting to survive in a totally digital world ruled over by evil machine learning overlords. Digital landscape, evil algorithms. Sound familiar? This is a scene that resonates with what I want to talk to you about today. So we join our hero, a man fighting to understand his place in the digital world, as he makes a powerful discovery. He is not helpless. He has choices. He can fight back, and he can just say no. If you work in the media, pretty much every day feels like this, dodging bullets. If you're wondering, guys in the glasses, one at the front is Google, one to the left is Facebook, and the guy back right, he's a social media influencer. I'll leave it to you to decide who is the most evil. So I'm Scott Armstrong, I'm the editor of the Times of a Man, and I want to talk to you today about what happens when you just say no. You are not helpless, and you can fight back. But first, let's talk a little about where we're at in the industry. We in the media have become an industry of junkies. And like those whose lives are blighted by drink and drugs, we are hooked on the one thing that is slowly killing us. With one major difference though, there is nothing medically addictive about our substance abuse. We simply lack the willpower to say no. But we keep returning to the digital crack pipe. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Google Ads, where you can lump in any ad network that pays you a pittance. You know that dirty, easy revenue that you've been trying to eke out an existence on for the last few years? And every year it seems harder to get that high. So who's to blame? Of course, the duopoly. I mentioned Google, but let's not forget our friends at Facebook. The evil duopoly that we in the media like to complain about so much. And of course it's their fault. And year after year, they get more and more successful, and we firmly believe it's unfair. It's unfair that they've been successful. I mean, yes, they did come up with a business model that worked. And yes, rather than compete, all we did was sit back and take the money. And admittedly, we were blind to the consequences of that because we were lazy and we didn't want to change and we just wanted the easy revenue. But it's their fault that we sat on our backsides. In the UK, the Press Gazette runs a campaign which says, "Stop Google and Facebook destroying journalism." Indeed, there's a report being delivered at this conference entitled Reality Check, Making Money with Facebook, except it should be called Not Making Money with Facebook. So who's to blame? Must be the duopoly, yes? For me, the Press Gazette campaign is everything that's wrong with our industry. Every time we cry that it's unfair more. We diminish our titles, we diminish our audiences, we diminish our value, we diminish ourselves. And all the time, we put more wind in the sails of the duopoly that we rage against. Our continual suicidal talk of decline only strengthens their argument and weakens ours. We unconsciously tell the advertisers that they are the go-to destination for advertising, not us. I might be oversimplifying matters here, but not by much. So what's the answer? Who's to blame? Well, it can't be the editors, surely. Is it the accountants if it's not Facebook or Google? This is 2017, and we are in the fight of our lives. And yet, too many editors around the world don't get that commercial is their fight too. They will spend days, weeks researching incredibly complicated issues for the sake of a single front page or a week of headlines. But do their research on their own industry? Understand how they can contribute to the company's bottom line? That's not journalism, is it? It's time for editors to learn Kung Fu, to acquire new skills, so they can fight for content. Because here's a newsflash, the accountants don't care about content. You are supposed to. And then let's talk about content. If content is king, why are we abdicating? All around the world, journalists are losing their jobs as editorial budgets are squeezed. I read yesterday sad news coming out of Singapore with 200 more people being laid off. But we know content is king, yes? I mean, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, this is all distribution. These are delivery mechanisms. We need content to keep the audience coming back to us and to grow our audience, whether that be from readers, interviewers, or listeners. In what world does it make good business sense to cut content and cut content creators? We're like a restaurant that's branching out into food delivery apps and motorcycle delivery boys and food trucks, and we're getting our products on the shelves of supermarkets. And all the time, we're sacking the chefs, we're making less food, and we're making it less well. It's time to stop. And while we're doing this, while we are locking ourselves into this spiral of decline, what's Facebook doing? Mark Zuckerberg's talking about creating content. Amazon already is in TV land and killing it. And then Jeff Bezos came along and bought the Washington Post. So he sees a value in our content. In Asia, Jack Ma, fairly smart fellow, Alibaba, he bought the South China Morning Post. So he sees a value in our content. Do these guys know something we don't? Or do they simply know something that we have forgotten? What made us special still makes us special. It is time for us to remember our own worth, the value of our journalism and the value of our loyal, engaged audiences. For too long, we've been giving away our content for free online, and we've seen how well that's worked out for us. Now, many in the industry are trying to reverse that with a pivot to paywalls. But isn't it time that we stopped giving away our audiences away for next to nothing to ad networks that profit while we go poor? It's time to just say no. And what happens when you do? Well, I said I would tell you a little about our story in the Times of Oman and how we achieved 10,000% increase in digital revenue. I will play you a short video and then we'll get to that figure. So, while the video plays, I'll give you a little bit of context about Times of Oman. In my previous role, I worked with more than 150 journalists. At the Times of Oman, I have 10. We're a small team, but we're a team that believes it can punch above its weight. We believe that the whole can be greater than the sum of our parts. So we've doubled down on content. We're not the New York Times or the Guardian or the Washington Post. We don't expect to win any Pulitzer Prizes anytime soon. But we work hard to be relevant to our audience. And that's paid rewards. Page views up, sessions up, engagement up, time spent on our website up, following in social media up. That's the lift, that's the value, the power of content. And we've learned Kung Fu along the way. We've acquired new skills, such as online graphics and data visualization. At this conference last year, my tiny team in the Gulf were given the Global Award for data visualization. So it can be done. It's not been easy. The past 2 years in Oman, we've had a bruising economic situation that's meant that my editorial budget is half what it was. But I've, as the editor, had to learn Kung Fu to acquire new skills, such as Excel, so I can be across all of the efficiencies, and as the editor, fight for the one thing I see as our engine of growth, the content. More Kung Fu, we've acquired new skills, video. 2013, 50,000 views. Last year, 26 million views, nearly a 10,000% increase. And we're just getting started. Last night we launched a new Facebook Live show. And then finally, here's the figure we're talking about, 10,000% increase in digital revenue. And we'll talk more about this. Quick look at this, and there's two figures. That versus that. So, in my small corner of the world, focusing on content, paid rewards, content is very definitely king, and it's made us the heavyweight champion of our market. But that wasn't enough to deliver the 10,000% increase in digital revenue. Despite being 10 times bigger than any individual competitor and 3 times larger than my kind of competition all put together, we still had advertisers coming to us and saying, why would I pay you? Why would I advertise with you when I can advertise with Google and still reach your audience? And they had a point. All our inventory was with Google Ads. So we decided it was time to stop. It was time to detox, to just say no. We exited the ad networks. We told the market, no more. We are a premium advertising destination, and if you want to talk to our audience, you pay us. We broke the cycle of dependency on Google's digital dregs. And it worked. Free from our addiction, my ad department was forced to learn our numbers. They were forced to appreciate the value of our audience and then sell that to the market. They weren't very good salespeople. They still aren't very good salespeople. They were a print legacy team that were more used to booking space than trying to sell. They would struggle to sell you a glass of water in the desert, and I know because I live in the Gulf. But we stuck to our task. We believed in ourselves. Yes, some advertisers did walk away, but they were only taking the dregs of digital, Google Display Network with them. Others listened to our clumsy but genuine attempts to sell our value and invested with us. And some of those that walked away, within a year they were back, but our numbers had risen and so had our prices. Saying no doesn't mean never, it just means on your terms. Once you break your addiction to Google and Facebook, once you understand your value, your premium offering, you can re-engage with technology, but just on a more equitable basis. We don't do programmatic at Times of a Man, but we are considering options where we can geo-look out our local market and set our minimum bid price, because we know what our price should be, and we know definitely what it is not. You see in the video that we've engaged heavily with Facebook. We're all in on Facebook Instant Articles, a platform that many publishers say doesn't deliver enough revenue. But that's because they're taking Facebook's dregs of their ad network. If you sell your own ads, you keep 100% of the revenue. Likewise with Facebook Live, we sell our own sponsorships and adverts around our broadcasts. A wise man, Juan Senor, from Innovations Media, stood on a stage in Malaysia last year and said an interesting thing of the duopoly. He said, use them, don't be abused by them. I say, if we bake our cake, we get to eat it. Explore and exploit technology with your values in mind. Free from your addiction, you can then build yourself a proper digital revenue strategy. You can look at whether it be email database marketing. Is it those paywalls that we were talking about? Is it sponsorship for Facebook Live? You can look at your display advertising anew, something that has not worked well for us. And this is where OwnLocal and myself overlap philosophically. We both believe that Google and Facebook are not the answer. And I speak not as a customer, but I like what these guys do because they are trying to redefine what a banner ad should be, what its relationship with your advertisers and your audience should be, how it can be valuable. And that's the really interesting thing about just saying no to Google and Facebook. The options you can begin to consider with your business and your audience in mind. There is technology all around this show that can help you break your addiction. And by learning to just say no, you can finally start saying yes to the right things. I'll leave you with one thought, which is, this is my humble little story of what happened at the Times of Amman, when we decided to go premium, go our own way, and just say no. But what would happen if our entire industry did that? If there was a mass pivot to premium, what then would the future of our industry be? It's worth considering. I'll leave you as Neo from The Matrix makes a phone call. And as he speaks into the receiver, I want you to imagine having the same conversation with the duopoly.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid.
I know that you're afraid. Believe it or not, as big as they are, Google and Facebook are afraid. They do not want you to escape their matrix.
To tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. Show your advertisers a world without Google and Facebook. Where anything is possible.
And then anything can be possible.
Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
And where we go from here is a choice I leave to you. You are not helpless. You do have choices. You can fight back. And you can just say no. And then you can learn to fly.